Hello friends, welcome to my channel. This is Charan. In this video tutorial, I will explain in Blazor application using stored procedures how to insert records into a SQL Server database. And here we got the final output. Notice the header tag insert record into database using stored procedure in Blazor application. Below that we got a table, the employee name. Let's enter the employee name James. The department is HR, and let's give a capital letters HR, and joining date is 12th September 2020. Now before insert this record, James record, let's check in our database table. I'm executing the table, execute. Right now this EMP details contains only one record, which is a Charan. Let's insert this James record, insert. Now let's check in our database. I'm executing this table again, EMP details, execute. So here we got the James record has been inserted successfully. That's it. In this tutorial I have explained how to insert records into database using stored procedures in Blazor application. If you are a first time visitor to my channel, please subscribe to get the latest updates. Before creating a new Blazor application, first we'll create a table and stored procedure in SQL Server Management Studio. I just logged into my SQL Server Management Studio. Let me expand this my root folder as well as the databases. Notice in these databases there is a Charan folder, which is a user defined database. I want to create a new table and stored procedure in this database. First let me allow this database as well as the tables folder. Right now in this tables contains some tables. Now let's create new tables. Select the database, right click the mouse, new query. Let's write a query to create a table. Create table EMP details is my table name. Let's add the columns in this table. EMP ID, which is the integer type, not null. I'm adding a primary key for this column, and it's an auto generate column, which is the identity 1, 1. Then EMP name and var the data type is, the size is 150, the department and var is 150, and I'm adding the join date, which is the date time, the data type is. Let's execute this command to create the table, execute. And here we got a message commands completed successfully. Let's refresh this tables folder. See, here we got the EMP details is added successfully. Let's browse the table, select the table's name, right click the mouse, select top 1000 rows. And here we got the results of this newly created EMP details table. Right now this table contains 0 rows. Now my aim is I want to insert some records into this table using stored procedures in Blazor application. So to insert the records, next step we require the stored procedures. That stored procedure I am creating in the same database. In this Charan database, notice there is a programmability folder. First let's come to the bottom. Let me expand this programmability. In this programmability there is a subfolder called stored procedures. Let me expand this stored procedures folder. Right now this stored procedures folder contains 0 stored procedures, user defined stored procedures. So to create a stored procedure, select the stored procedure, right click the mouse, new stored procedure. And here we got the stored procedure default code. Let's create a stored procedure. First write the name of the procedure name is insert EMP details is my stored procedure name. After that let's add some parameters to insert records. At the EMP ID column, the EMP ID column is auto generate column, so I'm not adding that one. emp name and varchar 150, comma, next one is a department. Copy that column name and add here, which is a string type and varchar, and the last one is a join date. Copy this one and paste here, and the column, the data type is a date time. After that, notice the select statement here, which is a default one. I am deleting the default select statement. Here I am adding my SQL statement to insert the records. And insert into the table name is a emp details, which takes the parameters emp name, department, join date, and the values at emp name, the values I'm adding here, at department, at join date. Now it's time to create the stored procedure, execute. And here we got a message, commands completed successfully. Let's refresh the stored procedures folder, right click the mouse, refresh. See here the insert emp details, the stored procedure is created successfully. Now let's execute the stored procedure. To execute the stored procedure, the command is exec. After that, we'll add our stored procedure name. Then we'll add between single quotes, the employee name is Charan and the department is IT, and the join date is also, we need to add between the single quotes. I'm adding today's date, which is the 16th September 2020. Let's execute this command, execute. So here we got a command completed successfully, which means this record is inserted successfully. Let's browse this emp details. So here we got the Charan record has been inserted successfully. Now let's call these stored procedures in Blazor application to insert records into this emp details table. For this video tutorial, I am creating a new Blazor application. Go to File, New, Project, and the project template I am selecting Blazor app, click Next. Let's give the proper project name is Insert Record Stored Procedure Blazor is my project name, and I want to save this project in core Blazor folder, which is in D drive. Let's create this project, create. After that, I'm selecting the Blazor server app template, click create, and here the application has been created successfully. Let me close this default window. Now first, before adding any coding part, we'll check the basic output, the default output of the Blazor application. Let's run this application. And here we got the default output of our Blazor application. It's a standard default output of any Blazor application, which contains some navigation links, above one menu links, and below that one razor component, which is the index razor component. Now let's write the coding part. Then switch over to the coding part. Stop debugging. When we want to communicate with any database, we require the necessary database package in our application. Here I want to communicate with the SQL Server database with Entity Framework. So let's install the necessary SQL Server Entity Framework code packages into our Blazor application. Before that, you notice in our application there is a dependencies folder. Let me expand this dependencies folder. Right now in this dependencies folder there is no any packages folder. Now let's install the necessary packages in this dependencies folder. For that, select the project name, right click the mouse, go to manage NetJet packages, then browse and search for Microsoft.Entity Framework Core, and this is the package I want to install. Select that one, click install, click OK, accept the license. And see here we got a green button here, which means this package is installed successfully. And also you can notice here the packages folder is added into our dependencies folder. Let me expand this packages folder. Now in this packages folder we got Microsoft.Entity Framework Core. The version is 5.0. Next we require the SQL Server package also. This is a package I want to install. Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. Click install. Click OK. Then accept the license. And SQL Server, this package is also installed successfully. In the next package, I want to install the tools package. Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools package I have selected. Then click install. Click OK, accept the license. And here all the three packages are required which I have installed in this packages folder. Let me minimize this packages folder as well as the dependencies. After that, let's close this NetJet package window, which we don't require anymore for this application. After adding the packages, next we require one Poker class. The Poker class which contains only the properties. So that class I am adding in this data folder. Select the data folder, right click the mouse, add class. And the class name is the EMP class. And here we got our EMP class. Now in this EMP class, as I told, this EMP class is a Poker class which contains only the properties. So first let's add the key property key, Alt Enter. When I click Alt Enter, I got some suggestions using system.componentModel.data annotations. So I require this namespace to use this key method. After that, let's define prop double tab, which will create the default property, the integer type. The first property name is, if you notice in our table, we have 4 columns: EMP ID, EMP name, department, and join date. So first let's add this EMP ID. Copy that one and paste here. Next, prop double tab, string type. This is the EMP name, prop double tab, string, and the third parameter, third property is the department. Copy that one and paste here. And the fourth one is the join date, which is a date type. The data type is date time, and the property name I am adding, which is my column name, join date. Paste here. That's it. I have added the necessary properties in this EMP class. After that, I require the DB context class also. So that class I am adding in the same data folder. Select the data folder, right click the mouse, add class, and that class name I am adding application DB context.cs. And here we got our application DB context class. Now in this application DB context class, I am inheriting the DB context. So when we want to inherit, we need to prefix with colon DB context. So DB context class belongs to Microsoft.Entity Framework Core namespace. After adding this package namespace, now we can able to add this DB context. After that, let's create the constructor of this class. Now in this constructor I am adding DB context options, application DB context options colon base options. Then here public virtual DB set. In this DB set I am adding my class name, the entities I am getting from this EMP class, and let's give the property name of this DB set. Here I am adding insert records, insert record, get and set. That's it. After that, now when we want to communicate with the data, we require the proper data source, which is our connection string of the SQL server. To get the proper connection string of the SQL server, notice here at the sidebar there is a server explorer. Click that one. In the server explorer there is a data connection. So open that one, right click the mouse, add connection. The data source is a Microsoft SQL Server client. I want to connect, and server name is this one, desktop. My server name is this one, desktop -pbudevon. After that, I am selecting the database names from this server Charan database. The table and stored procedures both I have created in this Charan database. So I have selected the Charan database. Test connection is succeeded. Okay. And here the Charan database is added successfully to our server explorer. And also notice here in the properties there is a connection string which contains the data source. Let's copy this data source and add this data source in our project app settings.json file. Open that one. In this JSON file, let's give the connection string, C is capital here, connection strings colon between curly brackets. I'm adding comma because it's a JSON file. Let's give my connection name is connection name. I'm giving my connection colon between double. I'm pasting the data source which I have copied. That's it. After that, open startup.cs file. We need to inject the connection string in this startup.cs file. So first let's install using Microsoft.Entity Framework code. Then in the configure services, let's add the services.db context, add db context, application db context, options dot use SQL server method, configuration dot get connection string method. The get connection string method takes a parameter, is a string parameter between double quotes. I am adding the connection string name which is my connection. Copy that one and paste here. Let's close with column. So after adding the db context service in the startup.cs file, next we require the services. In Blazor applications, the logic we write in the services. So let's add a new folder called services in this project. Select the project, right click the mouse, add new folder. The folder name is services. Now in the services I am adding a new service class. Select the services, right click the mouse, add class. I'm giving a service name is EMP services, EMP service, and here we got our EMP service. Now first in this EMP service I'm adding the data using my application name dot data folder. After that, protected read only application db context underscore db context. Let's give that underscore db context colon Let's create the constructor of this class. CTOR double tab, which will create the constructor of this class. Application DB context underscore DB. Then underscore DB context is equals to underscore DB. After that we'll add one function. In that function we'll call our store procedure public, and this class type is the EMP class. My class name, I'm adding this class name here. Add new record. Now in this class I'm adding the EMP class. Let's add a object EC. Then now in this function I'm calling the store procedure, so underscore DB context dot database dot execute. So this class is belongs to using Microsoft dot entity framework core. Then here dot execute SQL raw method, and this execute raw method takes the two parameters, string SQL. Here the SQL, which is nothing but our store procedure name. Let's copy this one, paste here. It's a string type, so we need to add between double quotes. We have three parameters. We are passing three parameters. If we check in our store procedure, we are passing three parameters here. So 0, 1 and 3 for join date, comma EC dot EMP name, EC dot department, comma EC dot join date, colon. After that we need to save the values, so DB context dot save changes. Then this function return EC. This object I am calling here the return. Now the final step, we need to call this function, the service, in the Blazor component. So that I am adding, let me expand this pages folder. I'm adding, let's open the index.blazor, which is our default home page. I'm deleting this default home page code, everything. I'm adding the h1 insert record into database using stored procedure. h3 Blazor tutorials. After that I'm adding horizontal line. After the horizontal line I'm adding at code. Inside this code I'm EMP class, so we need to add the necessary using insert record my application name dot data, the folder name, and I'm also adding the services folder. Insert my application name dot services. Then we need to inherit the service also. Inherits warning component base, the T services. My service name is a EMP service. Let's add that one, EMP service. We don't require here columns. Then let's create the object for this EMP class. So EMP class is equals to new EMP class. Then add void insert data is a function name ec dot empid is equals to 0. This is very important step. In Blazor applications, when we insert any record, we need to add this the empid, the id column, auto generate column must be 0. We need to add 0. If you don't add this line, you will get an error. Then we need to call the service also, service dot. Notice here, once I click dot, I got the function name add new record. In this new record, I am adding EC. After that, I am adding edit form. Inside this edit form, I am adding the method model. Model is the EC at EC on valid submit. When the user clicks the button control, it's a submit event at this function and I'm adding. After that, let's define a table. This table contains a border is 1 tr td employee name td. The input type is text placeholder enter employee name. Let's close the td. Next tr for the join date. This one we need to put between the td's, table data. Next td, let's add the input date. At bind value, the bind value is ec dot join date, and here also bind at bind ec dot, the property name is emp name. We have one more column for the department. Enter department, and the bind, the property name is ec dot department. After that, I am adding one more tr. The first tr is empty, first td is empty, and the second td is a submit button control. Input type is equals to submit. The value of the button is insert. Now the last step in the startup.cs, let's add the service also using insert record Blazor dot services. Then in the configure services, I'm adding services dot add scoped method. In this scoped method, my service name is emp service. That's it. We have done the complete coding part. Now it's time to check the results to insert the records into the database using stored procedures. Run this application. And here we got the final output. Notice the header tag insert record into database using stored procedures in Blazor application. Below that we got a table which contains to enter some employee details. Let's enter the employee name James, the department is HR, and the join date. Let's add some join date. This month is September, and 2020. Click insert. Oops, here we got, so here it's not 3, it's 2. Sorry for that. Let's restart the application again. And here we got the final output. Notice the header tag insert record into database using store procedure in Blazor application. Below that we got a table, the employee name. Let's enter the employee name James. The department is HR, and let's give a capital letters HR, and joining date is 12th September 2020. Now before insert this record, James record, let's check in our database table. I'm executing the table, execute. Right now this EMP details contains only one record, which is a Charan. Let's insert this James record, insert. Now let's check in our database. I'm executing this table again, EMP details, execute. So here we got the James record has been inserted successfully. That's it. In this tutorial I have explained how to insert records into database using store procedures in Blazor application. And one more thing, if you missed my previous video, I have showed how to get the today's date and current time in Blazor application. That video link you will get at the end of this video tutorial. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe my channel.